Welcome back to Getting Started with Unreal Technology. In this video, we are going to set up the lighting for this level that we've put together.
The real lighting. At this point, all Zach has in place in regards to the lighting are static meshes.
Right, and I've got these work lights in place, which allow us to see. If we turn these off, of course, everything would be black. But these don't really represent the kind of lighting that this environment would create for us. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Now, the very first thing I want to point out is that what we are looking at right now is not a good representation of what the lighting of this level looks like. It's just kind of
an approximation.
There you go. It's
I threw an extra Z in there. I like it.
That's cool. Extra syllables are always great. But this is an approximation of the lighting that we should be getting. In order to really see our final lighting, we need to build our lighting. So I'm going to click on the Build Lighting button, and this is going to take just a second. First, we're going to get the lighting build options. We don't really need to change anything in here. We're just going to click OK.
And let me go ahead and warn you right now, this does take some time. Now, we have got a very simple level here with very few static meshes in it. And even in this particular setup, you're seeing here that it's taking more than just a few seconds.
Absolutely. So it's ticking across, creating all of the various light and shadow maps and getting everything squared away, but it's not super fast.
So if you happen to have a quad-core system, that's a good thing.
All right.
There you go.
We're done. It gives us a little warning, says paths need to be rebuilt. Well, we have no paths in this level, so that's irrelevant. We can close that, and you'll notice things look a bit dimmer now.
Yeah.
And we don't really have all that many shadows anymore. They've kind of been washed out. So before we really do anything with lights, I want to take a look at that aspect, that we really don't have any shadows. Even right over here, like right behind these columns, you'd think there should be some sort of darkening effect going on, and there's nothing. The reason for that is if we select any of our BSP surfaces and open up the Surface Properties window, which is hiding down here in the underside of my interface, currently, our light map resolution is set to 32, which means we have these great big puffy shadows. So big, in fact, that they kind of get washed out. Now, for our purposes, what I want to do is take our light map resolution and lower it, thereby sharpening up our shadows. We're going to push this all the way down to 4, and I don't just want to do it for this particular surface. I want to do it for everybody, except the ceiling. I don't really think we need to do it to the ceiling.
Nah.
When you do this, when you decrease your light map resolution to sharpen your shadows, you are, in effect, stretching out the amount of time building is going to take place. You're increasing the number of calculations. You're kind of making your map way more with more emphasis on its calculation. So don't do it everywhere. I'm just doing it for a demonstration in this case. So let's right-click here on this surface, and we're going to go to Select Surfaces, Adjacent Walls, and then we'll hold down Control, and we'll select the floor here. And I'll just grab these two panels as well. So I'm not selecting the ceiling. I don't really see any reason to increase the shadows there. We're going to set this to 4, and then we can close this. Now, I'm going to spare you the rebuild right now. But if we were to rebuild this, we would notice that the shadows behind all of our objects have sharpened up considerably. Okay, we're going to light one room at a time. I'm going to start off in here with our little fountain room. So let's begin by creating our very first light. And at first, we're not going to have a really clear picture of what our lighting looks like in this room because this work light is getting in the way. So what I'd like to do is double-click this light and grab its properties. We'll expand the light properties. We'll expand light component. And I'm going to check off Be Enabled, which just turns off the lights in this room.
Yeah, actually looks pretty cool.
It's very dark and kind of spooky. And immediately our lighting changes a little bit, and we're no longer looking at our true lighting anymore either. It's broken our lighting system. You notice things got really brighter in here. If we wanted to see what this lighting looked like, we would, of course, need to rebuild. So we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to try lighting up this room first. So I'm going to create a new light. I'll hold down the L key and click here on the floor, and that'll create a new light. And I'm going to put this right in front of one of these little tiny light stands that we have here. So we'll zoom really close in. And you'll notice that icon is really huge and kind of getting in our way. Let's fix that. We can actually change the draw scale for this icon. I'm going to set it down to about 0.4. Actually, even lower than that. Let's try 0.25. So just a little tiny light bulb. Make sure it's right in the center of this guy. And I'm going to keep him really close to the surface, too. Now, it's a perfectly white light. And that's not really what I'm going for. So we'll start by double-clicking on the light to open up its properties. Let's scroll down under its light component, and you'll find a color swatch in here for light color. Click on the little magnifying glass. Notice the tooltip is a little bit of a misnomer. It says Show Generic Browser, but if you click on it, you actually get a color picker.
It's the generic color browser.
That sounds good to me. I'm going to choose a shade of orange because this looks like an orange light that's coming out, but don't leave it super saturated. Push it out toward a very pale orange. And you'll notice that what you get is just a really warm-looking light. Now, also, I want to bring the brightness down of this light. Currently, its brightness value is set to 1, which is really bright for this much of a little lamp. So let's set this maybe down to about 0.4. And that really dims things out. If it looks too dim, don't worry just yet, because we're going to put one of these on each of the 4 faces of this lamp. So for now, let it be a little bit dark. Also, though, I'm going to pull down the fall-off exponent. Now, if you don't know how light works in terms of exponents, the higher your exponent, the more that light is going to decay. And like if you take a light bulb and you hold it up in a really big dark room, at some point you're no longer illuminating the back wall of the room. That light kind of fades off. Its energy kind of decays as you move away from it. So if we increase this fall-off exponent value, we increase that amount of decay. And if you look toward the back of the room, the higher it goes, the darker things get because that light is falling off a lot faster. So if I set this as high as maybe 10, that back wall gets really, really low. I'm just going to pull this down to 4.
Keep in mind, once again, what you're seeing in your viewport is an approximation.
You did it again.
Did it again twice.
It's just hard to say that word.
An approximation of the lighting. So once again, to see what the real final look is, you're going to have to rebuild lights.
That's right, which we're not going to do right at the moment. Let's go ahead and close this window. And I like what this one light's doing, but we need more. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and we'll drag out a copy, and we get a second light. I'm going to put this right in front of this other face of the lamp, like so. And that's kind of starting to brighten things up considerably. I want to keep it really close to that surface, though. And the reason I'm doing that is that later on when we build lighting, it's going to cast some shadows from this little roof shape up onto the ceiling. So the closer you leave those, the nicer that's going to look in this particular case. Let's hold down the Alt key, and I'll drag a copy right through the lamp to this other surface. And then we can hold down Alt if we wanted to and drag one over to this lamp, like so. And while we're on a roll, we could Alt drag yet another one over here. Let's take this guy and we'll Alt-drag him over here. So we already got 6 lights. And you can see, even though we started off with one dim light, because we keep adding them together, we're getting some nice illumination coming out of this. Also, though, you'll notice that you're getting some really funky shadows starting to appear. Don't worry about these just yet. These are dynamic shadows used to give you an idea of the kind of shadows you're going to get when you rebuild, but it's a different kind of shadow than what we'll have as our end result, and it's not really relevant to what we'll see when we build lighting. So don't really worry about it. You also notice they kind of pop out of existence if you get too far away. Again, don't stress about that. Let's hold down Control and grab these 2 lights here on the front, and I'll Alt-drag those to the back of the lamp. Really carefully, make sure that their pivot points are outside the lamp. Otherwise, if they're inside, you're going to be just casting a whole bunch of shadows about the room. Okay, so those lamps are lit, so to speak. They really are casting out illumination into the room. I wonder if maybe it's a little bit too much illumination. Like maybe if it's lighting up this corner a little more than I originally wanted it to.
Really hard to say until we rebuild.
Until we rebuild.
We could, of course, just go ahead and rebuild.
Let's just rebuild for this one corner, and that'll give us an idea of what we're going to be looking at. So I'll go ahead and click on Build Lighting, and we'll click OK. Now, I think I have Perform Full Quality Build unchecked in that window. That's just because I've been using Unreal a couple of times, and it was just unchecked the last time I used it. I don't think it's making a significant difference here, but if you want to uncheck it on your end, go for it.
Of course, once again, we will be waiting for just a minute as the calculations are completed.
And the calculations are going to take more time now.
That's
our
right.
light and shadow map, or especially our shadow maps, have a higher resolution because we brought down that shadow value, and we have more lights to calculate.
That's right.
So
we're almost done.
Still pretty quick, though.
Yeah.
All right, so let's close this and see what we've got. So we've got some kind of blotchy shadowing taking place over here. Generally, I'm okay with that. That's going to be taken care of when we light these lamps. But if we look over here, we got some nice shadowing taking place. So
it's not that bad.
This corner of the room's kind of dark. I almost wouldn't mind it being a little darker.
Okay.
But I don't know.
And it has a very rich feel.
I think we'll leave it for now, and then later on, if you wanted to change something, we could definitely do it from there. I will point this out though: if you want to control how far out your light travels, you saw me playing with the fall-off exponent a second ago. Another really good one to play with is your light's radius. If you scroll way down, there's a radius value which by default is set to 1024. You can visualize that if you pull far enough back away from a light. There's this gigantic sphere around it which shows you the area of effect for that light. Just as an example, if I was to pull this down to, say, 512, that really shrinks down the effect of the light. In fact, it pulls it down so far that the lights in this corner would no longer be even touching this corner.
Right.
So I don't really want to do that. So we'll go ahead and pull that back out to 1024. But not 10,240.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's going to work for now. Let's get this lighting over on our other set of lamps as well. And to do that, let me come over here to the top view. We'll go into wireframe mode, and I'm really carefully going to grab all 4 of these lights. Now you'll notice they're not exactly lined up on those lamps. I'm not too worried about that. We could probably maybe take these guys and pull them out just a little bit, or maybe push these in. So if you want to take just a moment and clean up light placement here in this nice orthographic view, it'd probably be a good time to do that.